I'm gonna read it very quickly from the beginning now.
Okay.
When it's very hard, like Tzcheres is machlekes. Amud Rav Hilchos Tzoy Keches Asura. Umei Reglayim says Kol Mach Matich. Whenever we say Reglayim is whenever it still makes something wet. Now we're gonna ask a kasha there. Basically, Reglayim Kol Mach Matich when Nivlo Nifrim Mutarim. So here we define exactly when it's also if it's absorbed or dry. It's mutar. My love we say Nivlo. To me the Yav my Yav just like Yav should Nivlo Manika up Nivlo and Nivlo Manika. So when it says nivlu, it means it's complete. It's not. It's complete. It's very absorbed. It's not rishum nikr. It's not obvious that it's there. Oh, yeah. Again, my love nivlu. My yav rishum nikr. How rishum nikr also. So here you see that rishum nikr is also afagav the ein matpichin. That it's rishum nikr. So then that's when it's also. But it doesn't have to be so wet that it's matpichin and makes something else wet, like we wanted to say before. So to make a reisha, it's kozman matpichin. With that definition, the reisha is when they say, "Well, who the aser? How can I go? How nikar shari?" The reisha implies exactly like we said that only when it's matpichim mishum nikar is shari. El miholak mishminet is not right. Let me get to know it closely. Shenishmachim menu reglayim osli kriskom. Okay, first of all, if you have a kli which is used for meriglayim, you can't even say. We're going to see more about this later. You can't say kriyashma even in front of the kli. Now, meriglayim itself, meriglayim atzman shnishbuchu nivlu mutter lo nivlu aser. If it absorbs, it's mutter. If it's not absorbed, it's a ground. It's also no. Yossi argues. We'll see. He says it has to be enough. It's only a problem when there's so much meriglayim that's matpichin, makes something else wet. My nivlu, my lo nivlu. Now, what's the definition of nivlu? The commentary kaila nivlu de matpichim lo nivlu matpichim. If the definition of nivlu of lo nivlu is it's matpichim, so what's Rabbi Yossi doing? Rabbi Yossi doing because much matpichim to us rishum nikar shari. I know tanakama. So Rabbi Yossi is saying that exact same thing. El nivlu obviously means that it's so absorbed that it's not any rishum nikar. It's not. It's not. It's invisible. At that point, you can't see it at all. Lo nivlu. It means rishum nikar, and Rabbi Yossi comes along and he's makos. Because the meirah calls one matpichim does only also when it's matpichin makes something else wet. Rishum nikar shari. So the chayra. So it's the machlekes tanoim. The chayra to machlekes tanoim. Whether or not you need matpichim or rishum nikar, that's a machlekes Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says matpichim. So right, so a little strange. It's a machlekes tanoim. What you're saying is pashas. Machlekes tanoim. Most is low. The kuliyam kosman pratichun do'asir. Nikar shar. Zok Rabbi Yossi no. Sorry. The Gemara says no. We don't have to learn that way. It's calls much about people also. Rishum nikar is permissible, like Rabbi Yossi really said. So what's the Tanakama saying? That's something. The Tanakama that says it's more. That is more machmer. Yes, he's a little more machmer, but it's not enough. I'm sorry. No, it's the other way around. Tanakama requires. Yes, it's the opposite. The Tanakama is saying that yes, like we said originally, that nivlu means it's not matpiach anymore. But the Tanakama holds it's only usher if it's what's called here tefeach almanas matpiach, which is even more. That's even more wet. It makes something even wetter. It's you're putting enough. It's like a person would pour liquid in order to get something else wet. That's a larger amount. So we don't necessarily have any source whatsoever that there be an Easter by Rishum Nikar. You have to be some amount of wetness on top of the ground in order to be an Easter Merigline. Zokti Gemara Vayter Rabbi Chafei and Beis. This is really today's Amud. You go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that if a person is in the mikvah, so you have to check what time it is. You have time to go to the mikvah. And you don't have time necessarily to get up and get out of the mikveh, get dressed, but you're going to miss this man nate, this man kriyashma of nate. So so if you could get out, good. If you can, you should mechasta yourself in the mikveh, and we'll see what that means in a minute. We'll discuss that, and you should say kriyashma right there in the mikveh. So the Gemara says, "Levet Tana stomach kablezer." Now the Tana seems to assume, like the sheet of Elezer that says Dama An Neitzachama, that Zman Kriyashma is only up until Neitzachama. If you remember in Daf Test Amud Beis, we had two shitas with Elezer. We also had Rav Yeshua, who says you have 3 hours in the day say Kriyashma. So, but why? So if you have 3 hours, why do you have to be so busy? Why do you have to be makbid to say Kriyashma in the mikvah? It's better probably to get up and get dressed. You still have 3 hours to say Kriyashma. The Gemara says, no, it's not a proof. I feel to Yeshua, even though Rabbi Yeshua says the Ikar Adin is you could have 3 hours, but if you're a Vasikin, you're a person who's machmer mitzvahs, the minig of Vasikin is to always do Neitzachama, and therefore for a Vasikin, it's preferable to be committed to your minig and to say Kriyashma even in the mikvah. Okay, the Mishnah says, now what do you do in the mikvah? You're in the water, and you cover yourself and say Kriyashma. You're inside the water, and obviously you're not dressed. So that's called Harei Libu Roya Isa Erva. There's a rule we say in saying Kriyashma is when your chest is uncovered and your erva is uncovered, that's called Leiv Roya Isa Erva. It's forbidden to say Kriyashma. How can you do that? So you're both inside the water. If it's dirty water, that since it's not visible, in the water nothing is visible, so it's almost like you're covered in the ground. It's ka'aras, it's like extended ground because it's dirty. It's like dirt water. Torah Rabbana, Mayim Slulim. We learned in the Brayta. Clear water, Yoshu Behem Ad Tzavoro, Yeshu Behem Ad Tzavoro, he should sit it up to his neck. So here it says in Brayta, so you do Kriyashma water in the clear water. Now there are those who disagree. You should dafka make the water dirty. Oifli Baraglai. Tanakama, Ale Ribo Esa Erva, how do you get out of the problem? We said the same question we asked before. We asked the Tanakama, how do you leave Esa Erva? Kasava Libo Esa Erva Mutter. Tanakama says that Liboy Reisa Erva is mutter. He doesn't agree with the concept. Your heart doesn't feel anything. It's inside your chest. Like it's not a problem. That's not what the Torah. It's not called visible erva. Your eyes are covered. You're blocked. Your head's above the water, so that's okay. But your foot, your ankle, whatever, your foot is uncovered with the erva, and that could be a problem. That's more of a serious problem. That's more considered standing with the erva. Your mama's your foot is with the erva. That's right next to the erva. Mutter. He argues on that also. Idmar. Ekva is erva mutter. Now, if your foot is touching, actually, some part of your body is touching the erva, bayama also. The Rava says that's also the leg touching the erva is not a problem. That's normal. That happens. That's mutter. Rava omer mutter. He had a different version in this Gemara. No, in fact, if your leg is touching the erva, you cannot say kriyashma. That's for sure. Also, roya, if your leg is open to your erva, there's nothing covering. That's called roya se erva. That's a machlekes. Bayam or also of a mutter. Why does Rava say mutter? A person can't always be 100% covered when he needs to say kriyashma. And that's the halacha that if there's physical contact with any part of the body, with the leg, it's aser, roya is mutter. So unlike the din of erva, which is we'll see in a second, soya, even if it's covered, if it's behind glass, is mutter. Because the halacha, the Torah about soya says, you cover the soya. That's called covered. Mutzlikus Kriyashma, Kenegda. Whereas Erva, is also Likus Kriyashma Kenegda, because Erva, it says, La Yerecha Erva is Dover. You can't see it. If it's a shashis, it's glass, it's through, it's forbidden. Well explained. Like I just said, it's telling Kisi, the Torah says you cannot, Erva cannot be seen. It is visible, it could be seen. We're not saying whether you're looking at it, but it could be seen. Now, if there's a tiny drop of soya and you cover it with spit, that's called covered also, just like glass is called covered. Amarava, but it needs a thick spit. Amarava, soya beguma. If there's a little, a little hole in the ground, soya inside the guma, maniach sav, put your shoe over it. You're covered. That's also covered. Boy, now what if you have your shoe and there's soya stuck to the bottom of your shoe? That's a little bit different. It's wherever you go, the shoe's with you. So it's not exactly, we can't exactly define that as covered. That's a good shiur teiku. An undressed goy, whereas erva is revealed, it is forbidden also to say kriyashma. So the one says, well, what's the difference? It's erva. It's the Torah says it doesn't erva. It doesn't say whether you're Jewish or not. The goy, what's the difference if it's a goy or a Jew? Ma'yu akam api Yisrael nami. Yisrael people also. Akam is a chiddush. It's why? It says the Torah says by Avram Avinu asher basa chamorim sorim. That one second. That pasuk. Sorry, that's in the Navi. Excuse me. That pasuk in the Navi. That the flesh of the goy is like a chamor. It's like the flesh of the donkey. So maybe that's therefore not called erva. It's only if you like. No one says that seeing an animal is called erva. The Torah says in the parasha of Noach that Noach is a ben Noach. Noach is what you're supposed to say Noach. He's not halachically a Jew, and yet the Torah calls it erva. It says you shouldn't use dirty water. You shouldn't. The Mishnah, actually, the words of the Mishnah are a bit cryptic. First, it talks about don't say kriyashma by dirty water, mayim roim. Then it says until you add water. So it's very unclear. What does that mean? You have all this water. How much water are you supposed to add? So something doesn't make sense here. That's one statement. Cloud. Don't use dirty water. If you're saying kriyashma. Now, if there's me'aglayim, there's urine in front of you, so then you can't say kriyashma until you pour water on it. If you pour water, it becomes mutter. And then that's talking about in kamiyatil. How much? Fine. Kosher. A little bit of water is enough. And Abzakai says, no, revius. He says, you have to have a revius, right? You have to have whatever it is, 3-4 ounces. That is necessary to vatal the dinner megline. Now, there's two ways. There's two ways to learn the machlekes. The machlekes is, in other words, you have the meglayim, and now you're pouring on top of the meglayim. That's called the psoif. But if there's already a drop of water there, and a person it makes meglayim, urinates on top of the water, so then even a little bit is enough to mevatel it, because we say every drop that goes in is already bottle. It's already was there. It falls into something else. It's bottle. Rabbi Yosef says no. Machlokes is chatchila. The machlokes whether or not you can use a little bit of revius. That's dafka when the water is there first. Al the But if the Meglayim is there first, you want to pour. Everybody agrees you must have it there. I'm going to have Yosef the Shammai. I see the Vias Maya Zakai, and Rabbi Yosef, who's the one who said the Machlekes, the Chatziva, he says first bring me the water. Reveal like a Zakai. Tana Rabbanan says in the Brachos Rav Sharei. Now the concept here is the Abid Shomer Glaim. Even the kalim, these are Peres kalim, these are clay kalim that are used to either for rain, for going to the bathroom, or Meglaim. Abid is for Meglaim. So even though obviously if there's Meglaim in there or tsoya, obviously, but even if there isn't, it's still also the kriyashma. The kli itself is considered disgusting. You cannot say kriyashma. Meglaim atzman achitul techel achitul mayim. As we said before. Now we're going to go into a little more. Pay attention here. There's a little bit of detail here about the details here. Now, often, let's say the Meglayim, if it's in your house, there's a bed there. So now, Bein Lifnei Amita, we'll see what this bed exactly, how it's separated. There's Lifnei Amita, Bein La'achar Amita. In other words, whether or not the Meglayim is in front of the Mita or behind the Mita and blocked. If it's blocked, you have to go out of the Dal Amas to the Meglayim. No, you can never read. Even if you go Dal Amas, if you're in one room with the Meglayim, you cannot say Kriya Shema. Now, what did he mean? Does he mean? Sorry, we're saying here. Just look at them. Now we're going back to explain. Abach helps us to explain the Rishon Gamliel. Rishon Gamliel's statement was la'achramita. What does that mean la'achramita? La'achramita kari miyad. Now, even if it's number one blocked, then you're still marking dal amos l'koya, and lifnei amita, there's no solution whatsoever in a koya cloud. So Toshma, we have a right. Tashan V'Shimon Lozer Oimer. Achar Amita Koirei Miyad. Lefnei Amita Marchad Al Amos. Mishum Gamliel Oimer Afil Meis Meis Soli Korat Shioti Oisheni Chatachas Amita. So now Ba'ayin Ifshit. Okay, so we proved that the shita of Achar Amita means right away. No problem. It's blocked. The Mita, that's sufficient. But in the process of that, if you noticed. So we may have come up with an answer to the question, but Mastis and Kashin, there's a contradiction in the names in the two brises. Mastis and Kashin, Ipach brisa. So switch it around. Ipach brisa. Switch around the last one. So Gemara says, switch around the names. So the two names, the main match up. It's of Shimon Lazar that we have to switch around is the one saying. Or it's the other way, switch around. It's Shimon Gamliel is the one saying that Alachar Mita. So why Dafka switch the second one? The first one, Man Shamas Lei Damar Kula Bayis Karbaam. We know that's Shimon. No, that makes sense. We know in other places that's Shimon Shita that a room is an entity. It's like one room. A room brings everything together. That's like Dal Ramas. So there's no room for going out, so that makes sense that he's the one who's machmar. If it's in the room, you have no eitzah. You'll see a little more. It's really connected with to see a little more. I'm Rav Yosef. Boy, my name is Rav Huna. Mita pachas mishloisha pshitali. A bed which is less than 3 tvachim, obviously. That's considered like a covering. It's kilovud. It's like really on the ground. It's like having something covering on the ground. Shloisha Abba, Chamisha, Shisha, Shiva, Shmoina, Tisha. But if you have something which is 3 or 4 tvachim or 6 tvachim, or 7, 8, 9, that's a shayla mount. I'm really a dana. I don't know. Asara vade lomi boili. Certainly 10 is ineffective to block, to cover the tzaya, the Meglayim. Certainly it's disconnected. Once it's a Sarah, it's a Shusa Achrita. It's a different Rishus. Asara v'shus achritihi. And what about our shayla b'shloisha asara from 3 to 9, 10, up to 10, 9, including has the boy meaning of Yosef and Afuna v'la pashet lei. Yeah, a little more. Amar Rav halach yishum ben Lazar. Chen aveli Amar Rav Brad of the B'shmu halach yishum ben Lazar. Rav Am ein halach yishum ben Lazar. Halach is not yishum ben Lazar. Okay, now we're up to the next story. A little bit different topic. We'll stop here, and Rabbi will pick this up tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi Shaya.
See you tomorrow.